this edition of the Tackle being the 20th of January 2021. Asante sana kwa kule tarehe 20 tayari. Kabla vinvu utasikia tayari ni December tarehe 20 mwaka umeisha. I hope you guys are doing well. It's great to see you again on the Tackle. Thank you so much for joining us. As usual, please, we request when you join in, please like. When you like, I get to know that you're watching us. And that's why you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. Kama kawaida, tafadhali karibu, ukifika pale piga like. Ukisha like, share. Ukishare unampa mtu mwingine nafasi ya kuweza kutazama broadcast. Naona kuna majamaa wamekimbia hapa mapema, lakini kama kawaida kabla tujaanza niweze kuwapea shout out several. Tuanza na maombi alafu tukirudi tunajua kazi ni vipi. Haya, tuende mbele za Mungu. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, we glorify your name. Thank you for an opportunity to see a new day. We thank you because of your provision. We thank you for the life you've given unto us. We pray that as we start this show, you're going to be with us, guide us and protect us. Give us wisdom as we speak to the people. May it be of value. We thank you and we glorify your name. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen. Asante sana. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Wacha nione kuna majamaa wameanza kulia airtime mapema, lakini naona my legs zinaanguka kuanguka. Good morning. Yaambia unatazama kutoka wapi, let me know where you're watching us from. Naona Purity Tani amesema good morning everyone watching from Dubai. Asante sana. Maria Skipkirui tuned in from Nairobi, Kenya. Asante sana. Naona pia nani mwingine ameamuka, naona Maria Skipkirui, naona ameamuka, naona Elfis Keleting anasema amina, asante sana. Ilari Kanira Shemenga anasema good morning to you. Vajep Kema anasema good morning Gerald. Good morning to you Vajep Kema MCA mwenyewe. Anasema good morning to you Vajep Kema. Marian Deng Mutai Gujanga anasema watching from Nax. Good morning to you. Naona Cherono Yvonne anasema good morning to you Cherono Yvonne. Kipchumba Laga anasema good morning to you Kipchumba Laga. Bernard Lee watching from LD, asante sana. Robert Williams Nyachoji anasema mia credit. Haya, mtapewa. Kuna jamaa kwa technical pale nyuma, yule jamaa anasemanga fundi wa mitambo kwa pale nyuma, wanaangalia ni nani ataweza kupata airtime, the top 10 ambao kuweza kujoin na kushare the broadcast on the Tackle wataweza kupata airtime yao haraka upesi siku ya leo, waanze mwaka vizuri. Naona Kipchumba anasema good morning to Bernard Lee watching from Eldoret. Santa Robert Williams na Choti anasema mia credit. Don Teja anasema good morning to Don Teja. Naona Joseph Kipkoech anasema sawa, asante sana. Sheikh Babuta anasema good morning. Maria Skipkirui good morning team Tackle, good morning to you Maria Skipkirui. Edu Kipkirui chekwa anasema ako ndani. No thrift anasema good morning to you my brother, happy new year. Kelly Ndiwa anasema yes, asante sana. Hasbel Yatora anasema good morning to you Hasbel. Edwin Kipkoech Biwot, mheshimiwa Moibena anasema present, asante sana Edwin Kipkoech Biwot. QS Mwangi Kikuyu anasema good morning Tackle tuned in, asante sana. Purity anasema niko ndani kama kawa, asante sana Purity. Naona North anasema I'm in from Eldoret, asante sana. Ona Julius Favor, hey Julius Favor, happy new year sir, happy new year, good to see you bana, karibu sana, good to see you. Good morning brother Bitok and the Tackle team, asante sana. Tuombe Lucia Senje ako na homa, tumuombe sana ataingia kazi Thursday, lakini let's pray for us. Vizuri Lucia, yala mahali upo ujue tumekuombea hapa team Tackle na tunatumai kukuona siku ya Thursday ukirudi kazi. Matthew Kibet Sanga anasema morning Mr. Bitoka, good morning. Elvis Letting anasema Gerald Bitoka was number 6 to join. Sasa na ngoja ya time. Watu wenye wanafanya chebukati, niko na chebukati bwana. Niko na chebukati anahesabu watu. Hata kwambia ulikuwa na mangapi? Naona Mutonga Mwaona anasema hapo sasa, asante sana. Lucy Miti anasema locked in, asante sana. Naona Cheruyot yeye anasema good GB watching live from JKI kama kawa. Asante sana watu wa JKI. Thank you so much for the guys from JKI. I have a serious team at JKI. Asante sana. Thank you so much. Even beginning with the OCBD. Wa JKI. Thank you so much for always joining us for morning broadcast. Na leo aliniandikia kaniambia bana mlienda wapi? Tago ulienda wapi? Tumerudi sana. Asante sana Mr. Kosgei. Naona Collins Kipchirchi anasema good morning Gerald all the way from Eldoret. MTRH I'll follow. Thank you so much Daktari. Collins Kipchirchir anasema anajiita the Duke of Cabeneshire. Asante sana. Thank you so much Collins Kipchirchir. Victor Tora Mogira anasema good morning St. Peter's Lanet Nakuru. Bernard anasema good morning to Adam Slima, good morning. Biruta anasema watching from Melbourne, Australia. Watu wa Australia, Melbourne, the land down under. Thank you so much guys from Australia. Really love you. Thank you so much for always joining us. Naona nitita the brand ambassador of the deputy president. Thank you so much Biruta. We really appreciate you, asante sana. Naona Daniel Kimosopa anasema mia, thank you so much Daniel. Regard Bansam watching from Ruiru, watu wa Ruiru wa Pipers, asante sana, tukule nyama choma weekend. Daniel Kimosopa anasema leta credo, credit inakuja kama huko under 10 top 10 Vincent K. anasema good morning to Kimutaya Tor tuned in from Minnesota. Watu wa Minnesota. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for joining in. Kipiator Frank anasema good morning, great Kenya na asante sana. Thank you so much. Abel Kemba anasema good morning sir, good morning to Kimtai Vini. Good morning. General Kipla anasema good morning Mr. I'm watching from Juja. Leo ni mashotos tunawapea kwa kibao. Ukitaka kusalimia mtu pia unaniambia alafu nimpee kwa salamu hapa. Anasema habari ni nusu ya kuonana. Great Festo anasema watching from Ruaraka. Good morning to you. Watu wa Ruaraka. Philemon Ruta Kiprop anasema good morning live from Narok. Thank you so much. Pakin Munzala anasema good morning. Jalakat Mary anasema watching from Westlands. Anasema Jeffrey Ombaso anasema Jeff Moja. Good morning Jeff Moja. Good morning to you sir. Robert King anasema good morning. Silas Kiyai, welcome Team Tackle and let's keep going after a long December and January holiday. Tumeenda holiday mrefu sana lakini tumerudi. It's good to see you. It's good to have you back guys. Thank you so much for being loyal. Unajua mmekaa holiday lakini mkasema Tackle ikirudi lazima tufike. David Kimani watching from Subukia. Watu wa Subukia, watu wa Dondori pale kwa kona. I hope mlipata Alhamisi siku hizi. Asante sana. Alberto Santos anasema watching from Kape. Asante sana. Samuel Ongunti anasema good morning Gerald. I'm watching from Ilula Patrol Base. Watu wa Ilula, salimia watu wa Ilula sana. Naambia nawapenda zaidi wa Patrol Base pale Ilula. Waambie Sato tunaonana tuko pale GK Prisons, mchezo wa volleyball, watu wa kupiga mpira. Tunakutana pale GK Prisons Eldoret Saturday. So watu wa Ilula Patrol Base, tafadhali tuonane pale tuweze kujumuika na ndugu zenu. Asante sana. Naona Albertos, naona pia Gakima watu wa Thika. Bwana Diaro Gosho. Gakima, good to see you. Thank you so much. Naona umeingia spell ya Torsama, good morning from UK. Watu wa UK wa United Kingdom, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you. Asante sana. Geoffrey, naona Jeffrey Ombaso anasema live from Bomet. Asante sana. Eugene Elisha Jr. anasema it's another 2 billion day. Good morning following from Doha, Qatar. Sijui sasa imefika ngapi? Sijui mmekula milioni 1 asubuhi. Wala watu waliamka mapema kama sisi. Wanasema the early worm catches the worm. Zingine the early worm catches the bird. Anyway, ni Kenya bahati mbaya lakini Yesu ni Bwana. Dorinche wasema good morning Tacklers. Good morning to Andrew Kathirimu. Wasema good morning. Alan Kiprotich Sire. Sama good morning Vincent Waithika. Sama good morning tuned in from Kiambu Road. Asante sana watu wa Kiambu Road. Kenneth Kibed, watu wa Kiambu Road tafadhali mkimbianga pale. Kama unataka kununua gari kimbia Maridady Motors pale Kiambu Road Theater Mall. Unaweza kupata gari haraka upesi. Kama wewe ni mtu wa kuweka kidogo savings, enda Maridady sako pale. Utaweza kupata gari baada ya kuweka 50%. Unapewa gari yako unalipia mdogo ukiendesha. Usitembee mguu ina robo utamaliza kizigino. Enda pale Maridady Motors sako uweze kupewa usave pole upewe gari yako ukisongesha. Naona pia kuna jamaa hapa anaitwa Kenneth Kiben sama tundia sana Gaddafi senior Njamba, grade yangu 2 months now. Gaddafi tuma namba, wacha tukulime leo, hata nakulima na grade. Weka peana namba hapa utashughulikiwa na jamaa tu Douglas. Kibet Bashir Oman anasema wapi credo. Kihara Jina anasema good morning Utawala tuko locked. Asante sana Kosgei Kibiwa anasema good morning to Nathan Kimani from Kiambu. Watu wa Kiambu, Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Kina Mushendu pale, Mushendu atakuwa from Thursday, anakaribia narudi kazi. Amzana sana niko Muhuru Bay. Asante sana Jane Mumbi, good morning from West. Jane Mumbi hapa business imepick up mambo ya tours. Ukikimbia pale kwa Jane Mumbi anaweza kupeleka Masai Mara uone wanyama. Kuna watu ile wanyama wameona tu ni paka ya nyumbani. Then kwa Jane Mumbi wapeleke tour. Wadhabe anasema Juja hii. Asante sana Moses Kebenai Jika anasema happy new year, I'm back officially today. Wacha tuchape kazi from Kanairo 047 kwa Kanano. Asante sana. Anasema Kanairo governor ni Mwenda. Unajua wengine wanasema ati ni Mwenda. Kanano Mwenda ndio governor wa Nairobi. Asante sana. Kanairo governor ni watatu. Kuna Sonkore, kuna Badi na kuna Kanano. Elias Lagata anasema locked in from Eldoret kama good barracks. Asante sana. Ole Julius Favor anasema merchandise yangu na kitabu ya RB Salastia sijawahi pata Bishop Bitok. Julius Favor, nilikuambia unitumie nambari. Tuma nambari alafu kuja kwa ofisi uchukua kitabu. Kitabu yako ya RB iko hapa. Kuja utaweza kupata, na ukifika hapa na kuongezea vocha kwenda kuosha gari pale Maridadi. Kama hujapata gari, unakaa na vocha, unachanga pole, shika vocha alafu gari utanunua baadaye. Haya, naona Elton HC anasema good morning Tamale Ghana. Thank you so much guys from Ghana. I really appreciate all the guys from Ghana. We have guys from Ghana, we have guys from Zambia, Malawi, South Africa. Thank you so much guys who are coming in from the West African side and also South African side. We really appreciate it. The guys from Ghana, led by Esaito. So good morning to you, Esaito from Tumale, Ghana. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Vivian Kogo anasema good morning team Tackle. Good morning to you, Vivian Kogo. Hope you're doing well. Happy New Year. Kiptarus Patrick Kimayo. Good morning from Rongai. Watu wa diaspora, asanteni sana, karibu. Sijui kama mpata visa ya kuingia Nairobi leo. Jojo Iraki anasema hello anasema okay, nimeona. Abdul Muaz anasema live from Wajia. Good morning to you. Jimmy Mary anasema good morning. Kipkorir Moses, good morning from Kwavon Sakitui. nilikuwa nauza maziwa huko kwa Vonsa kitambo. Basi hata umeamka vizuri. Joel Rama, chairman wa Team Tackle Diaspora. Anza morning tackle team. Asante sana wote wa Diaspora. We really appreciate you. Chepto C, sijui kama uko Kisumu ama uko Eldoret ama uko Nandi. Anza good morning to you. Good morning to you Chepto C. I hope you're well. Happy New Year. Sami Kowende, some good morning tuned in from Nandi Kabie. Dotwa Nandi. Asante sana Lagat K Maswashi. Some morning from Nakuru CBD. Jimmy Mary Luthuli wako tuned. Watu wa Luthuli. Asante sana, lakini kuna mtu hapo Luthuli bwana. Kuna mtu ananuuzia nini simu ya plastic Luthuli. Watu wa Luthuli. Anyway, Jen Mumbi asema hebu salimia wateja wa Safaris by Jen. Nimewasalimia, nimwambia waache kuona paka na umbwa kama wanyama. Kuna simba na kuna zebra, watu wa Maniu. Lunyunya Luguta anasema Emuru wa Dikiri. Watu wa Emuru wa Dikiri, watu wa Ngeno, asante sana. Leona Serema sama good morning watching from Sydney, Australia. All the guys from Sydney, from Australia. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for always being loyal to the tackle. Prince Kimsan sama thanks Bitok for job well done. Aslas tackling from Britain in Bureti. Asante sana. Tutafute tuamke tutafute. Hii siasa Kenya hii haiwezi lisha mtu. Tuamke tutafute mahali. Junior Mwana Ondima sema umekuwa wapi? We missed the tackle. Welcome. Nilikuwa nimeenda huko kucharge kidogo. Battery ilikuwa imeenda chini lakini nimerudi. Sheriff Drink Water Yoshan sema ndani. Asante sana Stanley Timpale. Good morning to tackle. Good morning to Asbel Kiprob. Good morning Gerald Bitok tuned in from Nairobi. Asante sana Asbel Kibrop, we really appreciate you sir. And Ricky Malikapki anasema we support you guys, promise our company Superwave Career Limited and Nairobi Delivery. Asante sana and Ricky Malikapki. Kuna watu wanaitwa tujengane. Kama unataka kujengewa biashara, kuna section inaitwa tujengane, tafadhali andika message pale ama upige simu, utaingizwa biashara yako itaingizwa kwa list inaitwa tujengane, alafu tunaweza kuchapa kazi pole kwa budget ndogo sana ya kuweza kushughulikia wale watu wadogo, the SMEs. We want to build each other. Tunakujenga, unatujenga. Teroreki Prince, good morning from this sides of Chebarbar. Watu wabera asante sana. Andrew Chenda anasema good morning. Stanley Timpale anasema wapi credit. Marvins DSM anasema nini huyu sasa Marvins? Wewe Jone Manu anasema Kinyauri Nyamira tuko ndani. Watu wa Nyamira asante sana bwana, asante sana. Aya ni yeye nikiendelea kupiga shout outs ni kama masaa zitaenda, nikitarudi tena kuwasalimia, lakini kabla tujaenda sana niwaambie leo kuna kitu inaitwa common sense. Common sense. Unajua kuna Nairobi lazima uje kutafuta pesa. Na biashara kuna watu ambao wameanza kuanzisha biashara, kuna kitu inaitwa trusting the process. Sasa zingine unaanza mahali fulani unafika kwa biashara unaona yenyewe hii ni ngumu. Mimi nimefanya hii biashara, nilianza kuuza vijiko Eldoret. Nimefika hii Kanairo, msifikiri nimefika jana. So kwa biashara there's a way you start. Unafanya kitu, unapata zingine inashindikana, inakuwa ngumu, you have to keep going. There are people who have built successful businesses in Nairobi. We never really understand where they've come from, where they build from, what is their background, what are the sacrifices they've made, what is the price of success. And one of them is here today. He has built a top 100 company in this country. Kenya hii, si Kenya ingine. Kenya hii, top 100 company, and I'm sure that he's really a great gentleman, and I'm sure he's gonna go far kwa biashara. Atatuambia kunaendanga aje kwa biashara, atuambie what needs to be done, the things you need to avoid. Let's talk also about the policies in the country. Is it favorable for businesses? Let's talk about his background. Where has it come from? He talks about trusting the process. Hashtag trust the process. How far has he come? What are the sacrifices he has to make? What are the pains in business? He's going to have that conversation with us today. And that is Sir Eric Mwangi from CEO Maridady Motors na Maridady Motors Sacco na Maridady Motors Shower. Maridady. Karibu sana boss.
Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here with you, Bitok, and to interact with your viewers. I am flattered to know that I'm using the same microphone that gurus like PLO, but you may choose where to end. So I was born in a village called Gashie. I greet my people from Gashie this morning. I went to a primary school, Bitok, called Gashie Primary School. I think when primary schools were being named, there was no much thought or creativity to it. It was just called after the village. And I later went to Karuri High School, somewhere in Kiambaa. I went to Graffin's College and I did my undergraduate at USIU. I am a married man to one, Dr. Lois Mwangi. I celebrate her this morning. She is on maternity leave.
Umeanza mahali mzuri sana. Hapo ndio inaharibikanga.
She's on maternity leave taking care of our third born who is turning 5 months this month. I am a father of 3, so I have a boy, a son who is my firstborn. He's turning 10 this year. He's been reminding me that his birthday this year is for a double digit. So I have to make the gift bigger. And my daughter is 8. She's called Rain. So that is basically who Eric Mwangi is in a nutshell.
So umesema vijana wawili, msichana mmoja. Ama wasichana wawili kijana mmoja.
Wasichana wawili, kijana mmoja.
As a balance equation.
Bibi mmoja.
lazima to balance. Lazima to balance, yes. There's something. So how was your journey been? I mean, ulizaliwa Kashie. How was your growing up like? You know, unajua kuna watu wengine wanafikirianga ndio uanze kunyonga hiyo tai lazima ukule toka mahali baba yako alikuwa ananyonga.
Well, Gashie is a village. I mean, Gashie is 15 kilometers from Nairobi. If you drive there, it will take you about 20-30 minutes. But when you get there, you will appreciate that you're in a village like every other village in Kenya. There are good things happening, very many good things if you decide to focus on them. There are also a few challenges that are happening in every village. And growing up for me, I would say I give you a lot of credit to the family that I come from. I come from a family of 10. I happen to be the 10th born. I avoid saying last born. My dad always reminds me when he's annoyed at me that I am the only of his children who was born in a maternity. One maternity. And I would say that I had many parents, therefore, because all my older brothers and sisters were helping my parents to bring us up. I remember it was the resolution of my older brothers and sisters who said that we are going to make sure that every one of our children in this family gets education. So they fought really hard, even though I was growing up when my dad was retired. They paid my school fees. They took me to high school. They took me to college. And that is how growing up was. So I was just a normal village boy. We would go to the coffee plantations around the Gashie village. There were so many of them. Where you see buildings like Roslyn Heights. When I was a boy, those were our hustling grounds. We would go there picking coffee. And you would spend the whole day picking coffee. You do one debe, and you paid 7 shillings in the evening. Yeah. And by the way, in that hustle of picking coffee, I think is one of the places where I picked one of my strongest values. I remember one day when I had spent the whole day. I don't know whether you ever picked coffee, Bitok.
Sisi tunapikingi mahindi.
Mahindi, na majani chai.
Na majani chai.
So coffee is a different ball game. It's a job that you must do by working hard. And I remember one day when I had done a very good job, according to me, I had picked almost a whole debe. A whole debe was made of like 7 kasukus. I don't know whether you know the kasuku container.
Kasuku ile ni ile 2 kgs.
Yes, you would do 7 of them to make 1 debe. For that 1 debe to pay you 7 bob in the evening.
Wow.
And I remember at around 3 o'clock, unajua ulikuwa unachuna kahawa, unapeleka pale kwa ngunia yako unaweka. Unachuna, ukijaza kasuku, unaenda unaweka pale. Nilienda kuweka kahawa yangu kutoka kwa kasuku nikakuta sipati ngunia yangu. Guess what? Someone had stolen my ngunia of coffee. My whole day effort had just disappeared like that. Okay? And I think it was a very painful moment. I was a young boy, probably in class 6 or class 7. I remember my older sister encouraging me, my brothers encouraging me. I cried a lot. But every time I look back to that story, I think it is the one thing that taught me in my life how painful it is to cause another person an injustice. That you steal someone's effort like that. So growing up for me in the village was like that. You know, we would go with my mom to till other people's lands, you know, in the village. There's always the families that are doing well and the families that are not doing well. And sometimes the families that are not doing well provide labor to the families that are doing well financially. And for the context that I come from the generation of parents who believed that children are not just children, they are also a source of labor.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, the more you had, the better. They refused to have 2 kids because they would say, hawawezi lima eka moja wamalize. So we would go with our mom to till farms of other people. I mean, when we grew up, we were teenagers in high school, we would go from JE and look from JE. That is the time when Nyari Estate was coming up. We would go there to hustle and work. And basically, that's how village life was. Then schools would reopen, you go back to school, and life goes on.
So ndio historia ilikuwa. So gunia moja ya coffee ni debe ngapi? 4, right? If I'm not wrong.
No, it depends on the size of the gunia. That clearly tells me you've never picked coffee.
Unajua kwetu gunia ni moja ya 90 kg. So tunasemanga mahindi debe 4 ndio gunia moja.
Pale kulikuanga na bucket. There was a special bucket. It was a metallic bucket that was available in the coffee plantations. You know, the farms had them. That was a unit of measure for how much coffee you must pick for you to be paid 7 bob.
But even the debe itself is heavier. It's even heavier than the coffee itself. Ukibeba debe unaumia kuliko wakati umebeba coffee, umebeba kahawa.
Very true.
Right? So what are some of the things that really, what are some of the values? You said one of the values that you picked up is that you should not oppress the other person.
Yes.
What is any other value that you've picked up along even before you go to business?
Working hard. You know, my mom has always insisted on a very. My mom has always insisted on one principle of life: if you don't work, don't eat. And she kind of created a daily reminder for us that before you take that plate of food in the evening to take your dinner, you need to be asking yourself one basic question: what work have you done today for you to justify the plate of food that you're eating? And I would say that that is a value that I try to live on to date. That every evening before I take my dinner, I want to ask myself, by the way, what work has I done today for me to justify, to deserve this plate of food that I'm eating today? Yeah.
Oh, that's
Then this job also taught me, you know, the value of process. You know, you don't just get it, or you cannot just walk into a coffee plantation and all of a sudden you have 5 debits. It's you have to put effort, pick one branch at a time until that kasuku is full. Then you take it to your gunia and put it there. Then in the evening you have to carry your gunia all the way to the factory where you're going to go and you're going to be paid for it. I think the value of hard work for me is something that I really picked from those boyhood jobs that I did. Yeah.
All right, tell us about Maridady. Maridady has grown to be an authority in motor dealership. You know, and at a fairly young age, that, you know, when people hear about Maridady, wanafikanga ni yaka mzee kanatembea na magoti kama hivi anatembea na kijiti. Belongs to a young man. How was the birthing of Maridady like? Where did it start from? What made you decide to start selling cars when you could be selling coffee, where you're picking coffee the rest of your life? Ama ulikuwa mnatangaza gari Gashie?
I'll actually, the dream actually came from Gashie, but every time someone tells me Maridady is very big, Maridady is doing very well, I think as the entrepreneur behind it, it humbles me. But it reminds me of the many challenges that I know are there in the industry, the many challenges that I know are there in the company, and it kind of makes me focus more on what needs to be done than what has already been done. But the way I got into the auto industry is a very simple story. I keep saying it's a very simple story, and I attribute it to one man that I met when I was in high school. His name is Mr. Geduku, and I give him the credit for ushering me into the auto industry. He was a teacher, and he was importing vehicles and selling them here in the country. And because of the nature of his job, he would therefore give me responsibilities to go and market these vehicles. That time, the internet was not as big as it is today. In fact, it was completely unknown. So I would go marketing, put in posters, Pale Sarit Center, you know Sarit Center? Yeah, Center.
The notice boards.
The notice boards. Then that was the main way of marketing vehicles, of course, plus the classified small advert on the newspaper. And he trusted me 100%. He even bought me my first mobile phone, like a first mobile phone, the one that got me a wife. This Mr. Geduku. This Mr. Geduku is the one who bought it for me.
Hapo ndo ulianza kuchanganyia msichana wenyewe.
Why? Because
ila kufinya vile
yes, it was like a small phone. Why did he buy it for me? Because, you know, he was a teacher. He didn't want to disrupt his teaching by receiving phone calls from prospective buyers, so he needed someone to handle that for him. So that is how I slowly got into it. By that time, I finished high school. I went to college, at Graffin's College. I started doing business computing. That made me see some challenges that my church, my local church, ACK Kihara Parish Church, was going through in regards to projection. You know, the church had just bought a projector, and there was nobody who was qualified to operate it. So because I had some IT knowledge that I had gotten from Graffin's College, the church again gave me a responsibility to be the one who is managing the projector. And I give a lot of credit to that job that I got from the church, because it instilled a sense of public responsibility on me. Yeah. And that continued. Within the church, I was able to realize that the church had a circle. And I realized that the circle was not computerized. Again, I proposed to the circle that, you know what, if you guys give me an opportunity, I think I can play a role in computerizing your records. Mr. Gishinga, who is the chairman of the circle, again trusted me with that small responsibility to computerize the records of the circle. Eventually, they trusted me to manage that circle. Now, it is in that circle, as I'm doing all this, I'm still helping Mr. Geduku in selling his vehicles. You know, on Sundays, we would go to the bazaar.
The guy you met in Eska?
Yes. It is in that circle that I was able to see the power of, you know, savings and credit. And I remember that I was able to save a retro amount of money. You know, our circle would lend you twice the amount of money that you have saved. I would get some money from the church. The church would pay me 3,000 bob per month for operating the projector. The circle would pay me some money per month for managing their records. I was able to make some savings into the circle. I was able to get a loan of 200,000. And I had a buddy of mine called Gishura, Joseph Kamau. He's my buddy to date. I salute him wherever he is. He also was working at that particular moment with a bank, so he was also able to access a small loan of 200,000 shillings. We were able to combine that money, the 400K.
200 shillings or 200,000?
200,000. 200,000 each. I remember we contributed 200,000 each to make a capital of 400,000. And that is how we were able to import our first car, a Mazda Demio. I remember it was 004V. I'll never forget it, blue in color. So I normally say that the first vehicle that I ever imported, having a stake of ownership in it, was actually a partnership with a gentleman called Joseph Kamau. Yeah, so I never forget the value of partnership, and I never forget the value of not despising the ritual that you have. Yeah.
So hapo ndio Maridadi ilianza. One car, Master Demio.
Yes, Mazda Demio 004V. I can't remember the
004V. Kama wewe ndio ununua hiyo gari ya Master Demio, ilikuwa K1?
I think it was a KB something. It was a KBV or something.
KBV.
I remember the client who bought it is a sister to my friend called Lynette Karongo. Yeah, wherever she is, I'm sure she can recognize.
Lynette Karongo, nataka kuona hiyo gari. Yeah, 00. I think you need to buy back that car.
I need to buy it back as a souvenir.
Yes, and souvenir, get it a frame, put it in a glass, alafu tuwekee pale Maridadi Motors. Tuko tunakuja tunaangalia where it all began.
Yeah.
Kama uko na hiyo gari 004V, tafadhali uniite, mimi nitakuja. Asiponunua nitanunua, tuweke kama souvenir. So 200,000 a loan that you got, 200
Yeah,
is what bothered Maridadi.
yes.
So from that car, one Master Demio, how was the journey been like? I mean, how did you even get here? Now the point where you're selling all these vehicles.
Look, you see, I was a young man, and to be honest with you, at that particular moment, Maridadi had not been born. Okay, the trade had been born, but Maridadi had not been born, and the birth of Maridadi actually comes from a conversation with my wife. You know, the way as a couple, sometimes you have a word that you continuously use. Yeah. So for us, that word was Maridadi. So I would keep on telling my wife, na mama anapenda vitu maridadi sana. Mama anapenda vitu maridadi sana.
Mama leo uko maridadi.
Mama leo uko maridadi. Mama leo nywele ni maridadi sana. Okay. So actually the name and the brand Maridadi is born from that conversation. Because when I sat down to tell my wife, I think now I need to start, professionalizing my hustles and giving them a sense of branding. I asked her, what name do you think would be ideal for our family business? And she was quick to suggest Maridadi. And so the first company actually that we ever registered was not Maridadi Motors. It was Maridadi Enterprises Limited. And that is a story for another day. It's a business that where we learned a lot to do with trade. It's a business where we were very young when we were operating it. I would say that is where I made my greatest entrepreneurial mistakes. It is the field where I would say that I have learned a lot of lessons to be able to continue perfecting the business as I move on. But I would give you a story of one time when we were going to South Sudan. Because when you're a young man, you're doing many things. You don't know exactly what to do. Sometimes you want to do computers. Sometimes you're told, no, money is in real estate. And another time you're told, no, money is in IT. And then you're told, no, money has moved. Now money is in stationery. And at that particular time, around the year 2012, I remember we were told, sasa pesa iko South Sudan. And me and one of my friends, we decided to go and try business in South Sudan, okay? And we were doing very many things. We were trying to do very many things. Shooting lions, shooting antelopes, hyenas, buffaloes. You are a hunter in the jungle, but you don't know exactly which animal. You don't know what you're looking for. And I remember one time I was going to South Sudan to prospect on business based on promotional items. And I had the samples with me. I had hustled that week to make sure those samples were ready so that I can go and present them to the company in South Sudan that needed them. And that time you were flying Jetlink. Yeah. Nimekaa pale nyuma ile kiti ya pale mwisho. And I was sitting next to a lady, and in my judgment, this lady was in her late 50s. She was a white woman. And older ladies, I think as women get older, they become more friendly. They want to engage you into a conversation. And this lady engaged me into a conversation as a young man. I was in my early 30s or late 20s. And he asked me, what's your name? I told him my name is Eric. And what what are you going to do in South Sudan? I told her I'm going to South Sudan to do business. And this lady asked me, what business do you do? I told her I do many things, I do fuel, I do computers, I do what. Hapo unafikiria, labda hizi vitu zote utataja huyu mama.
Kuna kamari katangukia.
Atakwambia
kuna kitu mama anasema.
Umetaja fuel, niletee tankers 100. But when I finished telling that lady that, she asked me the question again. She asked me, tell me exactly what business do you do? And we talked for the first time, it occurred to me that I didn't know what business I was doing. And because I was going to drop those samples in Juba and fly back in the evening, I promised myself one thing, that by the time I take the flight back and land at JKIA, if ever I meet that lady again in that flight and she asked me the same question, I should be able to answer that question in one sentence. And that is when I did my soul searching and I asked myself, of all the things I do, of all the many businesses that I do, which is the one business I think I can be passionate to settle in? And in my mind, and when I consulted with my spouse, we agreed that I should try and focus in the outdoor industry. And I promised myself that for at least 10 years, I am not going to touch anything else. Even if you come up with an idea of silver and gold, I will continue pursuing the outdoor industry and see what can come out of it. And basically, we talk, that is how Maridady Motors was born.
That's how it was born. And this is where it is today.
Yeah.
How do you feel about where you stand today from where you've come from?
Sometimes I have mixed feelings. Sometimes I feel like I have done something, but to be honest with you, business and entrepreneurship is like going into a jungle. Sometimes you think you've covered half the jungle, only for you to find that you haven't even done 10%. And I think it's a path of self-discovery. So sometimes I see the challenge, I see the problems that we have in Kenya's outdoor industry. The entire motoring space has a lot of work to be done. And so every day I feel that it becomes a bigger responsibility. When I was a younger entrepreneur, my only focus was probably to just make a little money to keep my family going. As you grow older, you become more sensitive to the needs in the society. You realize that you have a whole team looking up to you. You listen to people on social media tell me, by the way, I am looking at your business. I'm trying to model my business like yours. Just yesterday, a young man walked into my office and told me, you know what, I would want you to mentor me in business. And you begin to realize that this is more than just business. This is life. This is a responsibility that you have to serve God by doing what you do.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's really great. All right. You've built a top 100 company. I saw you won an award for top 100.
Yeah.
What does it take to build a top 100 company?
I think it takes focus. I think it takes the realization that it's more than just about the money. That you are in the market to solve a problem. You're in the market to solve a need. That for every transaction that you do, like for us, because we import vehicles for Kenyans, many times you can be oblivious to think that that is just a financial transaction. But to be honest with you, behind these transactions is a lot of emotions. Sometimes you'll be handling a family that is the only saving they have. Sometimes you'll be handling a transaction on behalf of a father who has promised his family that, by the end of this year, we are going to buy a car. And you have his whole family looking up to him. That car is the hope of the children. Yeah. That car is an icon of inspiration to the children. They are telling people in school, what daddy said he's going to buy as a car. And it gets very emotional if something was to go wrong when you look at it from that perspective. So building a top 100 company, I would say, is not something I sat down to say that I'm going to build a top 100 company. No. I think sometimes the business leads you. Sometimes you just begin to realize that, by the way, you need to take this a bit more seriously because what you're doing is really needed in society. Yeah.
All right. So there's a thing that I've taken you. What are the core values of your business? Because there's someone here, I'm seeing there's someone who said profound, that is Jane. Jane, by the way, does tours. Anafanya biashara ya tours, anaitwa Jane Mumbi. Jane Mumbi, some profound. Maridady is a big name because the young man has surprised us today. His values and sense of responsibility is great inspiration for us all. May Maridady grow to be great. What are some of the values? What are those basic? There are those things that you say deal breakers. What are the values in your business that you think has helped your business to grow? In only less than 15 years, it has grown to be a top 100 company. What are those deal breakers? What are those values that you've inculcated and set as a foundation for Maridady?
I think one of the values that leads me every morning is actually based on the book of Colossians 3:23. Where the Bible says that whatever you do, work at it as if you are working for God and not for man. Because we talk every time you hurt a human being, whether you are a dentist who did a bad job, whether you are a doctor who didn't do a good job on the patient, whether you're an accountant who didn't do a good job, that person, as he's suffering because of you, he prays to God. That God help me to solve this problem, right? So it means, therefore, that if you serve that person well, the day he goes to thank God, that, thank you, Lord, for my car. Thank you, Lord, now I'm healed. It actually brings you to that point of realizing that what you're doing for other human beings is actually your service to God. And I would say that one of the values that is driving us forward is that spirit of service. And, one of our themes for this year of 2021 is from selling to serving, whereby we are looking at the customer who walked into our doors, not as somebody who is meandering to our doors to do business with us. No, he came because he has a need that he wants you to help him solve. He came because he has a want or he has an aspiration that he wants fulfilled through you. So that attitude of service, I would say, is the one thing that I want to continue inculcating in the team and in the brand, for people to understand that we are here to serve each other.
All right. Yeah. Now, we've talked about all the things. We've built a company, top 100. We are looking at the butterfly. Right? Technically.
Yeah.
Referring to your logo and your story of trusting the process.
Yeah.
You look at the butterfly.
Yeah.
A lot of people tend to look at the fruits. They don't even ask about when this tree was planted, the pain it has taken to grow. What are some of those heartbreaking moments that you've had in business?
I think some of the breaking moments that I've met in business, I think 2016, 2017 was very difficult year for me in business. As you say that Maridady is a big brand, I would tell you that for sure, and I like being completely candid, that you would probably meet some people who would tell you, no, I think the time I interacted with that business, it was not doing very well. Yeah, as you say that we are a big brand, probably there's a banker somewhere who would tell you, no, I don't think that's true, because he knows that there's a time we were not doing very well, probably on the obligations that we had with him. But those are not the things that are most breaking. I think for me, one of the most breaking things was a time when we were completely behind all our obligations. Even paying salaries was a problem. And I remember one employee who came crying to my desk because, the salary had not been paid on time, and told me, you know what? My wife is in maternity and my house is locked. And Bitalk, for me, that was a wake-up call to make me realize that, by the way, this business is more than just about you. There are families that are dependent on this business 100%. And I would say that sense of responsibility is the one thing that pushes me every day to make sure that we are trying to make ends meet, and that we are trying to make sure that every person who is in the value chain, be it the customer, be it the staff, is getting their end of the bargain. It is not an easy thing. Sometimes you will find that the employees are happy, the landlords are not. Sometimes the landlords will be happy, the bank will not be happy. It is a true human journey, and that is why I say trust the process. Why? Because one of the things I have seen is that it gets easier with time. People trust you more, people trust the brand more, people want to do business with you, not because you're doing perfectly well, but because they can see the effort that you've put in the little things that you're doing. Yeah.
Have you ever gotten to a point where you wanted to give up?
Oh yeah. I would say that not once. In fact, I say that every morning you wake up, life presents to you the problems, and it also presents to you the possibilities.
The opportunities. Yes.
Yeah, the opportunities. And at that particular moment of the morning, your mind has to make a decision on what to focus on. Are you going to focus on the problems that hypnotize you and drain you the energy? Or are you going to look at the possibilities that are saying that, by the way, if this works, this is how it can look? It is not once or twice that as an entrepreneur, you sit down and feel like you're in the wrong field. You're like, oh, perhaps if I had picked a different path, things would have worked differently. But I keep on saying, and I keep on telling entrepreneurs that talk to me heart to heart, that whatever field you choose, it will still take you there. It will take you to that day when you have to make a decision on whether you want to push on or whether you want to give up. And even if you give up what you're doing, you will have to pick something else and start the learning curve altogether again. Yeah.
From ground zero. Now you go back to kindergarten.
Yeah.
You build up from zero.
Yeah.
So what are the things, giving up is very easy. I can tell you that, you don't need, it doesn't need a lot of work to give up. I mean, it doesn't need anything. It doesn't take any energy to give up. You just wake up and say, okay, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to rise up again.
Yeah.
Waking up in the morning, it takes a lot to wake up in the morning.
True.
And say, I'm going to try again.
Yeah.
It takes a lot.
Yeah.
We don't just wake up, we don't just wake up and come to do the things that you do every day. For me to wake up at 4 a.m. to come and prepare for this show,
Great
it
effort.
takes, I mean, it takes you really convincing yourself.
Yeah.
Saying, I'm not going to give up today. There are times you feel like, no, this thing I'm not going to do it today, especially when it's not probably giving you what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest struggle in business. When you're building a business, you always imagine that now, bam, I'm going to start a business, ndauza gari, nitaleta gari niuze, niende nilete ingine mbili, niuze, zikuwe 4, niuze. By the end of 2021, nitakuwa na gari 72. Then you come and bring the first car.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Jua inaipiga kwanza, ilikuwa yellow, imeshakuwa red.
Yeah.
Jua imetandika, imekuwa gray. By the time you're selling it at probably at a loss. I mean, there are those times that you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm going to give up today. I'm not going to do this thing today. What is it that that keeps you going? When the times that you wanted to give up, what is it that made you wake up again and say, I'm going to try it again? Getting back on your feet. There are a lot of people who have had business which have collapsed, and that is a real story. Even in 2020, a lot of businesses have collapsed because of coronavirus. The economy has been on a meltdown. There is someone even today who's watching us today. They said they're not going even to work. They're going to sleep at home. What is it at those moments that you need to give up? Nini ilikufanya ukasema, no, I have to stand up again and try this thing?
Good. Very deep question, Bitok. And I think one of the mistakes that society has made is that we evaluate the importance of everything based on how much money it makes. And one of the things that I would like to tell my fellow entrepreneurs is that there are businesses you will do that will not give you money, but they will give you character that can make you money tomorrow. Yeah. And I would want to say that sometimes if you judge things short term, they will not make sense. Bitok, if you look at, for example, the role of parenting, bringing up children, if you were to look at it short term, it would not make sense. I mean, if you want to look at it financially, it would not make sense. Yeah. And I want to say that the important things in life cannot always be evaluated on the basis of how much money they make. Yeah. When you're bringing up your kid for 5-10 years, you're spending money every day on him, right? Yeah. What is the return on investment on that particular moment? And is the return on investment really financial? So one of the things that I can say is that I have done businesses that didn't work. But when I look back, they didn't work financially. But when I look back, they gave me contacts that are very important to me today. Yeah, I have done businesses that didn't work, but they gave me a lot of values that I value today. I cannot tell you how much money I saved from that coffee work that I was doing when I was a small boy, but I can tell you a value that I brought forward from that. So I think we just need to change our attitude and understand that some things you will go through in life will not reward you financially, but they will make you a person that society can depend on tomorrow. So when things are really tough and when the numbers do not tally, I think I go beyond the sphere of numbers. I look at the people I met. I look at the lessons I learned. And I look at the fact that all that is going to help me make better decisions tomorrow and probably build a better company. Yeah.
All right. So that's something that makes you wake up.
Yeah.
Say, what did you tell someone who's struggling to wake up today to do the things that they do?
I would tell
someone who is even actually watching us in bed right now saying, this thing I'm not going to do it again.
I would tell that person, first of all, to wake up before I say the next thing. Why? Because you've got to learn to push yourself. If you stay in bed and lock yourself there until evening, there's one thing that you can bet on. Nothing is going to change. But Bitok is very powerful to even just take a walk and just watch the birds fly. Meet a person who greets you and asks you where you're going. Yeah, that act of refusing to lock yourself somewhere and going out to interact with your fellow human beings is a very, very important thing. I know that you can interact with people through the internet, but I would say that for that person who is feeling lethargic and they do not have the energy to wake up, the first thing they need to force themselves to do is to wake up and take a walk.
That's amazing. Get up and take a walk. Uwezi jua unaweza kuungana na kamutu kwa opportunity.
Yes.
Akambe unakaa kama unaweza uza gari.
Yes.
I think that's something that really we struggle with. And even as we roll up to the next conversation is, the question has been, and we have a lot of young people. you've realized that these days degrees have become some small cages, some small prisons, where people sit and say, I cannot do this because maybe I have a degree in this, or maybe I'm not gonna hustle because I've gone to school, I've done this and that. I mean, there are a lot of hell of opportunities out here, but because our young people are somehow they have been constricted by the achievement, the small achievement that they've made in terms of education and all that. To an extent, they cannot think productive in the sense that they cannot go out of their way to do something that makes them. What do you tell today's young people?
I would tell them that we need to be a pragmatic society, Bitok. And, as we begin to have that conversation on academics, I think it is important for people to understand that we respect education. But I think one of the purposes of education is to give you a critical mind, to even criticize that education itself and ask yourself, by the way, the content that I have been taught, from the time that I started schooling in this country, for example, the content that I have been taught along the way, has it prepared me for the life that I'm living? And one of the things that you will find is that there's a gap between academia and where the economy is. And sometimes we have graduates being released into the market year in, year out for a market that does not exist. And so I would tell the young mind, the young graduate, that apart from the education that you have acquired, you have to be willing to use your education to interrogate the society that you're in and ask yourself, what are the socio-economic problems that are there in the society that I can be able to solve? Because I love how the police and the army train their people, because they simulate the real scenario. If, for example, you're training to be a soldier, they actually simulate battle for you. If they're training you to go and fight in the desert, they will get a place that looks like a desert to go and train you there. If they're training you as a Navy, they will take you to the waters. But you see, education doesn't exactly work like that. And therefore, it is the responsibility of the learner to try and take initiative and connect with the market and try to understand where is the market. I keep saying that, education has continued to prepare people to work in big organizations. And I ask, how many big organizations do we have, for example, in this market? You can count them with less than the 10 fingers of your hands, right? Now, if 60% or 70% of the economy is being driven by small businesses, then we need to prepare graduates who have the attitude and the mentality to work in a small business. Because we do have a problem whereby if two graduates graduate today and one gets a job, for example, in an M-Pesa shop, and another one gets a job in Safaricom, you could be having the guy working at the M-Pesa shop considering himself to be having a much more inferior job. But Bitok, you and I know that the whole strategy of the big company, which is Safaricom, is actually based on the performance of what? Of the M-Pesa shop.
Of the guy at the M-Pesa.
Of the guy at the M-Pesa. But the attitude of the worker is going to matter a lot. So you will find the guy at the M-Pesa shop is sometimes completely lethargic. He feels that he's chilling there as he waits to get a bigger job someday. And I think we need to change the attitude of our people to understand that it doesn't matter where you're serving your fellow human being. Whether you're serving in a big clinic or a big hospital, it doesn't really matter. What is of value is the fact that you have a platform to serve your fellow human being, to meet the need of another human being and make some money out of it.
Wow. That's very profound. That's quite something. And you see, there's also there's something we call the destination syndrome, where people feel they have arrived. You get your first job, probably getting a few bucks. You can pay your rent. You can have a Subaru. Maybe umenoka Subaru Kablu, KBL. Umeweka kelele nyuma. Unaanza umefika. Then you find out you get to that destination syndrome where you feel like there's something that exists beyond that. There are a lot of young people who have gotten there. Wanafika mahali wanapata kitu kidogo, kiburi na jao, na wanamkamba sasa hapa ndio mwisho yake. How do we have these young people see things beyond where they are? Because the truth is, the world is a big place. It's an auction. I mean, you can never finish it. How do we move our young people from that destination? Where, when someone is fired, for instance, they run into depression, they die. Actually, some are committing suicide. Every day we're hearing about young people, first of all, who have either killed, or they have actually committed suicide themselves out of depression. Things that maybe are not, maybe they have lost their job, or maybe things are stuck from that degree thing, like, okay, nafanya M-Pesa, niko na degree, lakini sijapata kazi. Kama hiyo sio kazi. How do we deal with this destination syndrome, where young people feel like mahali wamefika ndio mwisho? And without that, there's none.
A great deep question, Bitok. I think there's a script the Kenyan script. Every time you tell young people work hard and succeed, there's a script in their head of what they define that success to be. And I think that is the beginning of the problems. If you tell young people work hard and succeed, study hard, what is it that Kenyans call success? Because that is the beginning of the problem. Because if the symbol of that success is that Subaru, then you will have people doing anything to get the money to go and buy the Subaru, whether they have to sell their mothers or their fathers, or they have to kill them or kill their brothers or sisters to sell that plot of land to buy that Subaru. They will do that. And I think we need to interrogate the Kenyan script of what people really define success to be. I think we have really commercialized what doing well and succeeding in life is all about. Bitok, I would want to ask you, that teacher who is teaching Sunday school in the village, or is teaching a nursery school in the village, what are the chances that he can fit in the Kenyan script of what being successful is all about? I think we need to look at the script and tell people that success really is having that opportunity to serve your fellow human being in whatever capacity. And God has given us different passions. There is that person who only enjoys teaching Sunday school. And if he doesn't teach Sunday school, he's not peaceful. There is that person who only enjoys teaching nursery school. And even if you give him an opportunity to go and teach in the university, he doesn't feel the same about life. And his success, therefore, is finding that niche, that place where he doesn't get tired. He can do it over and over and over again. Now, the script that our young people seem to carry in the head on what success is all about is fully materialistic. It's about where you live, it's about the car you drive, the clothes that you wear, and all this. But the question that we must begin to ask is, what about the day when none of those things make sense? Because there's a time when you will get so old that your ophthalmologist, my wife is an ophthalmologist, will tell you that it is no longer safe for you to drive because your eyesight has really become weak. What will be the sense of purpose for that person? So we need to rehumanize ourselves and decommercialize our thinking to understand that the sense of being human is not about the things that we accumulate around us. It is about the services that we give to our fellow human beings.
Wow. Yeah. That's very incredible. Now, let's talk about, I've seen you've been doing series on COVID-19, on ethics on business, and maybe even post-COVID strategy. Let's start with the COVID-19 period. What do you think, as a businessman, what has been the feeling? You've survived somehow.
Yeah.
How was your experience been during the COVID period?
The COVID period was, a blanket of darkness. It was like being put in a pipe and told to walk forward, and you don't know how long that pipe is. And it brought very pertinent issues on businesses, and it raised very serious questions on businesses, questions of hope and all that. And one of the things that I learned is that nobody benefits from a hopeless situation. Yeah? Nobody benefits when the market is hopeless. When the market is seeing darkness, everything actually goes down. The planes land and they cannot take off because there are no passengers. The banking halls are empty. The schools are empty. The taxis are empty. The showrooms that are selling vehicles are empty. It was just the perfect demonstration of how interdependent life is. That I do well because you're doing well. And that if you stop doing well, I can as well stop doing well. So one of the lessons that I learned, therefore, is to value every other business. Yeah, that there is a relationship between the guy who is selling sukuma wiki in Kiambu market and my business, because when his business does well, that is the guy who comes to buy a Probox to transport that sukuma wiki. I think that if there is anything that has emphasized the interdependency of life and that has demonstrated to everybody that, you can't do it alone. COVID told the banks, you can't do it alone. COVID told landlords, you can't do it alone. COVID told schools, you can't do it alone. Hotels, every business has been confronted by COVID to actually inspect its values on how it values the entire ecosystem in the economy. COVID told governments that you can't do it alone. You have to do it with the people. And I think COVID has humbled all of us. It brought our numbers down. And I keep on saying that if there is anything that COVID has done, it has not impacted our quantitative KPIs positively. The numbers went down. But in terms of improving the qualitative aspects of our lives, how we relate with each other, how we value each other. Now, The landlords understand that they need the tenants understand they need the landlords, the small businesses understand they need the big businesses understand they need the small businesses. In terms of improving the qualitative KPIs of our thinking and how we relate with each other in society, I think COVID has done a good job.
Wow.
COVID, I met one friend of mine who told me, COVID brought our husbands home, for example. Because they were so busy running businesses out there, and all of a sudden
na kuna zingine zilivunjika pia, also during COVID realize that kumbe watu wajua nangi kumbe hii kandoa zingine hii kazi inatusaidianga sana kuidumisha, because people started staying together and realize kumbe hata tukoanga compatible nini tulijipata hapa. So it has been either way depending on how you look at it. If you took it positively, it healed you. Kama ulichukulia vibaya ikakumaliza pia. It has been, I think, a double-edged story. True. Now, let's talk about the recovery. Even you as a business, and I'm sure you also interact with other businesses, business people have also struggled during the COVID period. As we talk about moving now from the COVID period to a point of recovery, what do you think is some of the recovery strategies that businesses should or would adopt?
Two things. Number one is that businesses must participate in building a hopeful society to reignite the market. And that's why we were driving the campaign on Trust the Process. If you look at the billboards that we had done on Trust the Process as Maridady Motors, we were saying that life can get slow and ugly. Yeah. But these two, that was referring to the caterpillar, becomes a what? A butterfly. And what we were trying to tell the market is that this is part of the process of making us better, all of us. Yeah. So I think right now, businesses should make communications to the market that inspire hope. Because if all of us keep on saying how bad things are, how difficult things are, how the future is dark and all that, it actually becomes that. I have a background in psychology, and one of the things we say in psychology is that people will never do better than their minds are. You cannot build a house that you have not envisioned. You cannot buy a car that you have not envisioned. You cannot have a marriage that you have not envisioned. For you to achieve something in real life, you need to somehow first achieve it virtually and theoretically in your own mind. So if your mind is showing you death and darkness, that is what actually gets translated into your life. You will never build something that you have not built in your own mind. You will never win a war that you have never won in your mind. Even for a musician to sing a song, where does he first sing it? He first sings it in the mind. So one of the things that we must do is that we must speak hope. We must re-inspire society. And we must say, yes, there is a challenge. We are not saying we cover a wound and assume that wound is not there. But we are saying that we have to acknowledge the problem, then ask ourselves, how do we move forward?
Where is the turnaround?
Yes, where is the turnaround? Yeah.
So what are some of the strategies that you'd actually advise businesses to take up, especially SMEs? SMEs are very fragile. Yeah. If you can, you've seen how big businesses have suffered. Yeah. You can only imagine how much more the SMEs are suffering. Yeah. And the question would be, what are some of the strategies? Because most of the guys who are watching here today are doing businesses in their own small way. Most of them are SMEs, small enterprises. What are some of the strategies and shots that they would adopt post-COVID to be able to stay afloat and be able to do business?
You see, business is driven by two parameters. Of course, the number one parameter is revenue, the sales. The number two parameter is the costs, because of course profitability is the difference between those two. So the number one thing that you have to do in a scenario where sales are not growing or going up is to cut costs. And I know the conversation of cutting costs is difficult, talk. Why? Because what are costs in a business? You will be talking about rents, right? You will be talking about salaries. You'll be talking about marketing budgets and all this. And so it means that you will have to have difficult and candid conversations with people. But I have seen value in being authentic and candid with people, that sometimes you have to tell that person that, look, this is how the market is at this particular moment. This is what we think we can be able to deliver at this particular moment for us to remain afloat. But we think that after some time, if we continue like this, things are going to look better. So I would encourage the entrepreneurs to be candid wherever they are, to be truthful wherever they are. Talk candidly to your partners, talk candidly to the people that you're working with. Be able to shape their expectations so that they are not expecting heaven from you when you yourself, you are actually in hell. So that is a strategy that they can use to move forward during this time of COVID. But most importantly, sometimes when you're going through challenges as an entrepreneur, and I like to say this a lot, there are new opportunities around you. And sometimes the challenge that you're going through is going to press you so hard. It's going to press you so hard that you cannot see the new opportunities. I like to tell entrepreneurs, divide your mind into two. Let one side of the brain focus on the problems, but tell the other side of the brain, can you look out for the new opportunities? Because sometimes, as you have problems on this side, you actually have opportunities on these other sides that can pass you by if you do not look carefully.
And actually say the life of an entrepreneur is about fixing problems every day.
True.
When you're talking, when we're all crying about COVID-19 is finishing us, there's someone somewhere who was sitting and discovering a vaccine.
Yes.
I mean, in every problem, there's always an opportunity. And maybe that's what we really need to look at as well as we move forward, to realize that in every trouble, every problem that we go through, every challenge that humanity goes through, lies an opportunity for someone who is ready to provide a solution.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
Even probably there's been the issues of conspiracy theories on where actually corona came from. Someone sat and said, okay, we need a business opportunity. How do we do it? This is how we do it, and this is how the returns are going to come. So maybe we need to be more awake to fixing the problems that we have as a society, because business is actually about fixing problems.
True, and I like that perspective a lot, Bitok, and I'm happy that you've raised it, because people need to actually realize that your opportunity is in someone else's problem. Your opportunity is in providing a solution. We will do no business in heaven, because heaven will not have any problem. So here on earth, you've got to wake up asking yourself, how do you fix somebody else's problem? The doctor has a job because someone got sick last night, right? Yeah. The counselor has a job because someone is depressed and is stressed and is needing someone to talk to. The mechanic has a job. Why? Because your car needs service or it broke down. I have a job because you've overgrown your car and now you want to buy a bigger car. Yeah, we have opportunities in the problems of other people. So every time we wake up, we need to ask ourselves, whose problem do you plan on solving today? Even if you'll just be making someone's hair or someone's nail, you're solving someone's problem, and there lies your opportunity. So anytime we say there are no jobs, is a lie. It's not true. Because to say there are no jobs is to say there are no problems to solve. What there is an inability for us to commercialize our solutions when we give them to other people. And I think that is where we need to ask ourselves, how do we go about it? How do we retrain our people to ask themselves that very basic thing that you do? How do you commercialize it so that you make something out of it as you move on?
And even talking about it, this show is a product of coronavirus. Wakati wa quarantine. Kwa nimekaa tu kwa nyumba hivi najaribu kupiga, mimi sijazoea kukaa bure. Hii mastori tunaonganga kwa radio and the mainstream media, we can actually have them. So Zoom, pay subscription, we start having these conversations. This show has been born out of coronavirus.
Congratulations.
COVID-19, quarantine, and here it is today. Started from the house, my coach, now it's here.
And I meet very serious people who follow this show. You're not the one who pulled me to this show. I was pulled by one of my friends, someone I respect.
Amazing.
Who told me, by the way, there's a guy I follow every morning called Gerard Bitok. He brings people who talk sense. Because one of the problems also that we have in this country, and I'm glad you mentioned mainstream media, because mainstream media has a huge responsibility in setting the mood and the psyche of the nation. And I think the mainstream media has focused too much on what is going wrong. Every time you switch on the news, you're watching the people who killed each other, the people who are divorcing, the people that are fighting. And it has kind of kept us in a sphere of pessimism.
Narratives.
Narrative, yeah. We are not saying we bury our heads on the sand and assume that nothing is going wrong in society. But what we are saying is that if the mind of the person is continuously pointed to what is going wrong, then the expectation of that person is that things will go wrong. So if this person is continuously pointed to businesses that are going bankrupt, that are being closed and all that, and is not being shown the businesses that were going bankrupt, but they recovered, then that person gets shaped to failure more than to success. And that sucks the energy of the nation. Yeah. So I am very happy and very excited for a show like this. The way the internet has provided an opportunity for media to be democratized, that somebody like you is actually a powerhouse in terms of commanding an audience and being able to inject that retro optimism that you can be able to inject even to the 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 people, because the triple down effect is that it's going to be huge. at the end of the day.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that I have ambassadors there. Whoever pulled Derek and told him to come here because they've been following the show. Asante sana, thank you. Kama unajua utaniambia alafu nakupea voucher kwenda kuosha gari pale Maridady, Motor Spa, Siata Mall pale nyuma. All right, even before you roll the conversation, the next conversation is there's I want to read some comments here from somebody. Someone called let me see. I've seen some comments here. Let me look at them. There's someone called Wangai Carlos, and it says, "I feel inspired by you and see you up in the direction I'm going. I'm motivated to get up to start each new day because of you. Sir Eric is one of the few people I take advice from. Trust the process." All right. Thank you so much. There's someone here who had made a comment, a remark here. No, Julius Favor says, "Wow, be talk. This guy is giving my story, but now mine is the opposite with my brothers. I hope I'm encouraged, Father." Thank you so much. Keep it up. I mean, keep your head up, keep your shoulders up. I'm also seeing someone here. Let me see. Moses Kamo says, "I'm inspired." Kayugi Kamusinga says, "Real talk." Asante sana. Abbas Njuguna just reminded me that actually even COVID-19 that you're talking about devastated us, it also created billionaires. The guys called COVID billionaires. So it depends on which side of the bed you're lying from. Simo Nyoike Njugush, Nelson says he's following from Utwapa. Saimo Njugush says visit any of the construction sites anytime and give or get insights as to how to design and build concepts of work for optimum utilization of resources. Okay, asante sana. Peter Modama says he's locked. Moses Kamau says we are all interdependent. Asante sana. Kevin Cancelo Osundwa says sober conversation. Thank you so much. Now, there's something I want to run you up into. Over the weekend, on Friday, last Friday, a friend of mine called me. Just a recent friend of mine in business. He says, yaje, uko wapi? Ambia nilikuwa, I was actually somewhere around Runda, thereabouts. Kanaambia, sukuja hapa Garden Estate. So I went. We had a conversation. So he's telling me about, he was a bit stressed. And he was telling me about a friend. Right? He's telling me about a friend. Here's what happened to a friend. A friend is a supplier. He is a trader. He supplies commodities to businesses, specifically supermarkets. Now, this guy's been supplying one of the major supermarkets that are probably going under, or have gone under before, without mentioning businesses, for the sake of integrity. So this guy has been stressed because he's not been paid, I think, and he's been operating with, as a supplier, you operate mainly on credit. Most businesses operate on credit. Unachukua credit hapa, unachukua mzigo, unaenda unawacha, unangoja ulipwe, you till back and you accumulate over time. So this guy's been operating on loans. He has not been paid for almost, I think, a year now. So this guy had taken a mortgage for a house, family home, akaeka nyumbani, mali watoto wanakaa. And this business technically was running on credit. So every time, this guy for all years not been paid. So the liabilities have been accruing. The burden has been accruing every time anapigiwa na bank. Tunataka tukuje auction tufanya nini. He probably lost a few things as well to the bank. Ikafika mahali sasa, even those guys who were supplying are going under. They're collapsing. So this guy is sitting and he's asking himself, okay, I have loans on my back. I'm being auctioned left, right, and center. The only place of source of income that I was depending on is going under. Is actually closing up and winding up. I have a family. I have a mortgage that I'm paying. There's a rule in mortgage that if you're alive, you continue paying the mortgage. If you die, that's the end of the mortgage loan. So this guy looks at the family and says, okay, I mean, it's getting worse. He's probably even getting depressed and all that. He's getting into drinking, like massive drinking, kunywa pombe because of depression and stress. So this guy sits. Every day the banks are calling. He wants to be auctioned. The mortgage bank is also looking for its money. Ontaka pesa ya nyumba, the mortgage that you're supposed to be paying every day. This guy is stuck between all these problems that are happening around him. And there seems to be no place, of escape. There seems to be no exit out of this thing. So this guy sits, looks at the family, and says, okay, worst case scenario, these guys will come, they'll auction the house. It will go. The next thing will come is the banks will come and auction anything that is left.
True.
The debt is still there. He doesn't write off the debt. Because even, one interesting thing about banks is that they never finish auctioning you.
It's true.
Until ile kidogo hata longi wanaweza kuja kuvoto itwe. Without going to the banks as well, because those are businesses as well. They operate, they do business on money. They lend you money, that's all they make money, it's their core business. So this guy sits and looks at the family looks at a possible eviction. Where do I take this family? There's no place. You're always under kulipa rent. So this guy goes to see his friends. You know, they're sitting. This guy's not drinking. Usually drinking. Akunywe pombe. Kitu kama 10 p.m. He leaves the bar without even taking even a single shot of a drink. In less than an hour, that guy was dead.
Wow.
You know, he went straight into a lorry. Straight into a lorry. Nyuma. Pa, kapiga lorry.
Sad story.
Yeah? You get that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you feel the depth of this thing.
I do.
Like, this is a guy who literally drives into his grave. Right into it. So the insurance come, wanakuja wakapima, there's no alcohol in the body. Kuna pombe, kuna nini. So what happens now? The family has a home. At least there's no breadwinner. Business, of course, is going to collapse because probably the guy who was running that business. And then we're still ridden in debt. But at least the family has a home. The guys ready to sacrifice themselves. Okay, let me just go. Watoto wabaki na nyumbani. Wako nyumbani. And the struggle as men is having your family, having a roof over the heads of your family, ensuring that at least they have a place. Even if things are tough out there, they still come back somewhere and start from there. Imagine your kids outside there having been kicked out of home. You cannot do anything about it. I mean, it can kill you. And this is what killed this guy. When you talk about businesses collapsing, and this is something that's really happening in Kenya, big brands are going under. At a very alarming rate. Big brands are going under. We've seen them. They're collapsing every single day. And when we read the news, we only look at the company that's gone down. If it's Maridady, God forbid, you only say, kampuni ya Eric ilianguka. Maridady Motors ilianguka. Nobody takes time to think about the people who are being fed by Maridady. The people who are supplying Maridady.
Or even the struggle of the entrepreneur.
If the struggle of the entrepreneur himself. Nobody takes time to think about the general effect, the collective effect of a collapsed business, of a collapsing business. It is a trend that's happening right now in the country. We hear every day in the news that companies are collapsing. We never take time to think about the livelihoods that were under that company.
True.
We never take time to think about the stress and the depression that even the owner of that company is going through.
In fact,
we read the news and move on. In fact, we make fun.
And we blame, actually, the owner of the business many
we say,
times.
Most of the time we blame them.
Yeah.
We see guys the other day, some of them were demonstrating in town. We say, waendelee kupiga kelele wana mshahara. What is it that's making business collapse in this country? And what is the ripple effect on the economy and the livelihoods and the mental health of its citizens?
You raise a very pertinent question on the collapse of businesses, and many times when a business goes down, we only read it as an event. But like you say, to some people, it's their life going down. You know, if you meet some of the employees that work in those companies that have gone under, you know, their hopes get shattered, and very many things actually go wrong. And I would say that the failure of businesses, Bitok, can be attributed to very many things. Now, number one, of course, is to look at business management in this country, and particularly for family businesses. I think there's a way in which sometimes entrepreneurs do not realize when a business has overgrown them. You know, sometimes these family businesses start as small enterprises that you can be able to manage with your own skills and with your own small team, you know, people that you can be able to supervise with your eyesight by looking around. But, you know, as a business begins to expand, you now cannot be able to supervise with your eyes. How do you manage a business that has 50 branches, for example, by supervising on eyesight? So the issue of the organizational structure is going to come in. The issue of systems is going to come in, and all this, because the bigger the business, the bigger the operation. If something was to go wrong, it can go really, really wrong. And so I think the first challenge, because as entrepreneurs, we must accept you are the first assumer of risk. The market doesn't blame you for nothing. It blames you because you're the driver of the business, you're the pilot of the business. And I tell entrepreneurs that in actual fact, every time there's a problem in your business, you must be willing to come and look at the market in the eyes and tell them, I take responsibility. Because this is your dream, this is your vision, you're the one charting the course, you're the one reading the map for everybody. Yeah. However, I also tell entrepreneurs whose businesses are going down, not to be too hard on themselves. because there's no point of you going down with a business, because if you do that, we talk, you cannot rise on another day, because every time you read about big businesses, go and study a big business like Toyota and see how many times in its history it has faced even bankruptcy. Yeah. But why did the business keep on going? Because somebody was willing to say, fine, we've lost that season, but we are going to redream and redefine ourselves. Yeah. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the entrepreneur sometimes also has to be willing to separate himself from the failure of the business, so that he can keep himself sober and sane enough to redream. And sometimes he can redream enough to be able to cover for all the losses and all the failure that has been there before. So the number one biggest risk that Kenyan businesses face is actually what they call the key man's risk. That key person who is driving the business, he's thinking, if he doesn't realize when it is time to delegate some things, how would I be doing this show with you? If, for example, I didn't have someone like Brian Karani, who is the GM for Maridady Motors, doing a very good job, how would I do this show with you if I didn't have a team that is doing the marketing as we talk here? So entrepreneurs must be willing to let go and have their businesses and trust other people to be able to do things for them. But the other thing that makes businesses fail in this country, and people don't want to hear, and they don't want to hear it particularly from their bosses, are the employees themselves.
Yeah.
Now, if you are to study some of these businesses, big businesses that have gone down, the entrepreneurs may never come out to say how sometimes they get hurt by employees, but we talk. The stories are out there. For example, if you talk about the supermarkets, you will be able to hear of stories of how some people, some employees had opportunities to steal from those businesses and they stole. Yeah, you will not hear people talk about something like the culture of shoplifting. The culture of theft in this country is something that is completely detrimental to the business. Every person that has a job somewhere, many people do not believe that you can do a clean job. This starts with the house help at home. When you listen to ladies talk about house help, many times you will hear of complaints. This got stolen, that got stolen. That brings businesses down. But the other elephant in the country, not in the room, is the policies. Businesses can go down because of bad policies. One bad law can bring an entire business down, and this is why we need to have conversations and engagements between the people in the political arena and the people who are running actual businesses. But the other thing we talk that is a big contributor of failure of business in this country is what you can call the issue of capital. Because when you're talking about capitalizing business, you have very few options. You can use the owner's capital. You can be able to go into the financial markets and borrow from there. The conversation that you're talking about banks, you will find that we have banks that are completely reasonable and completely understanding, that they can be able to stand. They can be able to say, this business, we've been with this business for the last 10 years. We've been with this business for the last 5 years. Now that COVID has come, how are we going to treat them? How are we going to treat their overdrafts? How are we going to treat their loans and all that? All these things, all these compounded things are going to have an effect on how a business performs during the times of turbulence or how it navigates from one point to the other. You will find that a business may have started with the owner's capital, but it cannot grow on the owner's capital unless the owner is able to pull capital from somewhere else. So you will find that all these things are going to affect how a business behaves and can determine the success or the failure of the business. So it is upon the entrepreneurs to continue reinventing themselves and engaging every stakeholder of the business so that we can be able to keep the businesses going.
There's something you mentioned that's very fundamental. I think there's a struggle that Kenyans have, and especially Africans. It's not a struggle that Asians have much, and the white people, they don't have it much. But black people have this it's mine. Even our parents, they don't allow their children to participate in their trade. Like enda utaenda uanzisha yako. When you look at the Asians, you can have a business that's been running for 100 years. Running all through generation, because it's an evolving business, an evolving enterprise. And we have this feeling most of the time in Africa, when the bearer of a dream dies, the business dies as well. The enterprise dies.
Sometimes even the family name dies.
It dies because there's no chain of inheritance. Like this is a skill that you'll be doing, this is what you'll be doing as a family and involves. And there's sustenance and there's transition. All right. It's a struggle that we have in Africa. People personalize things. personalized business. Like this is mine, and I'm going to make all the decisions. I know everything. I'm the alpha and omega in this business. It's a struggle that we struggle with even at that level, or family level, and even that level of a race level. Like Africans really struggle with it. You feel like because I build this, it's in my own interest to ensure that it runs. And you find that at times business outgrows that. At the point the business collapse, they collapse when they are at the optimum.
Yeah.
You find a business that has been actively expanding, making profits and growing, collapses overnight.
Sure.
Why do you think that we all so much? Why do Africans all so much into their things? Like, come on, chuma, this is mine, and this is it. What do you think is the problem? And how do you change this culture?
I think this goes back to psychology. We talk that people need to be. You see, for you to be able to let go, you have to develop a sense of emotional security. And you have to separate yourself from the business. Understand that you're not the business. The business can have its own life. And by giving it its own life, it can outlive you. And it can do better than you are actually doing in that particular business. But I think the African mind, and this is not just in business, it is also in religions, or it is also in governments. I think the African man, Bitok, needs to be taught how to accept, first and foremost, his own individual limitations, that you can be good in starting, but you're not necessarily good in managing. Just because you started doesn't mean that you will be the best person to manage that business. Just because you're the one who started it doesn't mean that you're the one who will take it to the next level. Yeah. So the African person need to be taught to be emotionally secure. The African person, Bitok, need also to be taught to accept his own mortality. Sometimes you have people, in the twilight years of their life. Yeah, it is difficult to accept our own mortality, but I think that is the ultimate maturity. Yeah. The day you come to the point of understanding that, by the way, you ain't going to be here on earth forever. Yeah. And the moment you understand that, now you realize that the lives to invest in is not just your own, but you have to invest in the younger generations. Because the struggle to hand over, Bitok, is not just professional in this country. It is also at the family level. Yeah, you find that families are unable to transcend wealth or even knowledge or even a trade or even a name from one generation to the other, because the older generation wants to hold on to it.
To hold it.
Yeah, just to the moment before the last breath. Now, it talks two things. Probably it says that these two generations are not trusting each other. Yeah, that the older generation is feeling you guys are spoiled. But we have to keep on saying that if the older generation is feeling that the younger generation cannot take over, it means that the older generation did not do a good job, Bitok, in bringing up the younger generation. And I would say that at that particular moment, it is an African for young men to correct old men, right? But it is not an African for young men to learn from the mistakes of the old men silently. I think the challenge here, Bitok, belongs to you and me. Yeah. We have to ask ourselves, because right now we are in the mid-gen, what I call the mid-gen, the middle generation. The moment you're in your mid-30s, early 40s, you are in that borderline. You have a generation that is 20 years younger than you. You have another generation that is 20 years older than you. And you have somehow the moral authority to speak to both generations. You can talk to the generation that is 20 years younger than you. You can say a word to the generation that is 20 years older than you. I think the challenge right now, even for this country, belongs to those of us that are in the mid-generation, to make sure that we do not repeat the mistakes that the older generation has made in front of our eyes, both in leading businesses, in leading institutions, and even in leading the country. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, let me just go through the comments very quickly, and then we'll come back. We'll switch up the conversation. Akimutaya Tor says mortality is hard for Africans. I think Africans to accept mortality is quite something else. We need to give them cancer. Nicole Kibrano says good stuff, great stuff. Asante sana. Israel Robert Burale, thank you so much, my brother. Happy New Year. Na karibu tackle tena. Let them know. Naulizwa vitabu hapa, kuja na vitabu. That's it. Robert Burale, great show. Pauline Chera pasema being present always and felt. Asante sana. Thank you so much, Pauline, for coming in. Saidi Peter Peter says karibu Malaba. Asante sana Saidi. Twaja ndakuja Malaba, ndakuja. Pauline, business is a personal leadership and style, listening and leading by example. So thank you so much, Pauline. John Kibor all the way from Eldoret says he's following. Asante sana. PK Kapsise, engineer, and I say I like the inside of this motor industry guru. Thank you so much, PK Kapsise, for tuning in. Peter Mudama says, what's your take on saving and business? I do not believe in saving but investing. What's your advice? We're gonna roll to that shortly. We talk about the we talk about the SACCO. These guys, Maridady Motor SACCO, they operate. Let's get to learn what it's all about. Then we move now to the saving culture. Why is it that young people are struggling with saving? We want things to, we want to talk one siku ya leo, microwave generation. Kevin Osundwa says sober conversation. Thank you so much. Clint Ambrose says live from Meru. Thank you so much, Clint. Moses can say we are all interdependent. Thank you. I think I read that earlier. All right. Trying to look someone here. Shemani says tumasalamu aparani. Ayo salimike. Asante sana. Let me see. There's someone here. Kimutaya. Maora Nduta says this is profound. Thank you so much. Joel Arama says try to tell people to write a will and you will hear maneno. Why? Afrika andika will. Lakini siku hizi ni wanoma. Leo kuna mwingine juzi amejijengea kaburi. Akaweka plaster. Akasema ile style atazikwa. So Afrika siku hizi ni kama ameanza kubali kifo. Sijui ni shida ama ni nini. Alright, let's move to Maridady Motor SACCO. Tell us about it.
Maridady Motor SACCO is a simple idea that I feel that is wisdom that we can borrow from the older generation. Many of us were taken to schools by parents or by older brothers and sisters who are depending on SACCO loans to take us to school. And I feel that this is wisdom that we can borrow for our modern enterprises so that we can be able to move them forward. So Maridady Motor SACCO has an objective to help that person who would want to own a car but doesn't have the full amount of money. You see, a SACCO is basically a peer-to-peer credit model. Yeah. It is Bitok's money helping Eric when Bitok doesn't need it. Yeah. And then when Bitok needs his money, Eric has paid back and Bitok can benefit. And that way we can be able to agree on credit that is affordable for members of that particular SACCO. So our SACCO has one main objective at this particular moment, and we have refused to expand that objective for now because we believe in focus and specialization. Our SACCO helps people to own vehicles. Yeah, it is difficult to save money where you can access it. Yeah, but if you're saying you want to buy a car at the end of the year, you can save up at Maridady Motor SACCO. And the good thing is that you can decide you want to save up 100%. There are people who cannot function if they have a credit on top of their head. Yeah, so you can save up to 100% and get the vehicle that you want to get when you have achieved the 100% target. But you can also save up 50%. And we are going to give you the car and you continue paying the balance in 24 months. The beauty is that even the interest that you pay to that particular kind of credit comes back to you in terms of dividends. So that is the objectives through which we set up Maridady Motor SACCO, because when we interacted with the market for many years, we were able to see the need. There are very many people who cannot qualify for the bank
loan. Unbankable. Unbankable.
Yeah, they can't qualify for a bank loan. So for that person, the only option they have is to first use a softer financial institution like a SACCO that is regulated, that is audited and subjected to the government regulations every year. We do that every year so that they can be able to achieve that. Because for me, Bitok, the issue of vehicles is not a prestigious issue. I'm talking about that person who is farming sukuma wiki in Mwangi and is not bankable. Yeah, that product means life and death because it is the tool that he uses to take his commodity to the market. So by using the SACCO, we are able to empower such people to be able to run their businesses. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the saving culture, the SACCO culture.
Yeah.
A lot more of the time when you're growing up, even the lands that we live in,
most
of the properties that our parents even stay in, were the results or products of SACCOs.
Yeah.
Or they used to call them cooperative movements at that time. The lands that were bought from the colonial masters were bought through cooperatives.
Yeah.
People used to come together and get things. And you realize that most of the wealth that has been built over time has come out of people who work together.
Yeah.
They build together. Would you say the same of our generation? What do you think is our saving culture? Mtu akifikisha 1600 ameenda nakula nyama choma bypass.
I think the current generation is thinking too much short term. Short term. Today. It's about today. What can I do today? How can I look today? What impressions can I be able to give today? And I think we talk this points to the attitude of hope and lack of it thereof. Because for you to save up, for you to achieve a project in 2 years, you have to have the hope that you're going to be there in the first place in 2 years. So the saving culture is bad, is poor, but it is all based on the fact that sometimes we do not have a very hopeful generation. Yeah? It is when you're hopeful that you will actually be able to take, for example, a saving program for your child to go to university in the next 10 years. But if in your mind you do not visualize the coming of the 10 years, then you cannot plan for those 10 years. So I think we need to re-educate ourselves on the need for us to plan in life, the need for us to be hopeful, and the things for us to know that if we are going to go somewhere, we have to begin going there today. You have to take the first step. I love to say that, Rome was not built in a day, but one day somebody started building Rome. For Rome to exist today, there's someone who woke up one morning and said, let me start building this thing. And we are saying that through Maridady Motorcycle, the 5,000 bob that you have, instead of wasting it over the weekend, you can save it in the circle. You will accumulate it to 300,000 or 400,000, and that will be able to give you a car of double that amount in the next 6 months, 1 year, or even 2 years, however long you take.
Kwanza nafahamu vijana wangu wanapiganga sherehe hao. Hiyo 500 naweza kwa sako dagi. Steve, tafadhali mwingie Maridady Motorcycle mwekange ka kitu. Aje kupiga sherehe pale.
But I think I also understand the market in that people have lost faith in institutions. There have been a lot of problems to do with the trust of institutions, and so sometimes you find that people feel that I can save and the money gets lost. Yeah, I can try this and it fails. But one of the things also that I like to say is that sometimes you don't know what will work until you try. Like yesterday we released 4 vehicles to 4 of our SACCO members, and when I listened to their stories, they were moving stories.
It was amazing.
Yeah, people, you were there, you witnessed. Some people started saving when they were in Qatar. Thank God for M-Pesa. Someone is able to send a saving. All the way to Kenya from Qatar, they can be able to go to internet banking, transfer money to the SACCO. They can be able to go to internet banking, download the money to M-Pesa, and send it to the SACCO. Somebody started doing that when they were in Qatar, and now they can come back to the country, apply for a loan, take a car on credit, and use that car as a taxi, and they're able to provide for their family. I think that,
and they have even to spend time with their family.
Yes,
not from Qatar anymore.
Yes, the separation is no longer there.
It's no longer there. Yeah. So I think it's quite something. In a nutshell, what do you struggle with in this space? Because you also have an history of SACCO, and probably where you were dealing with maybe an older generation of savers. Or economic drivers. You're now dealing with a younger population, a more younger population. What's your struggle in terms of selling this SACCO, SACCO mindset? Like, guys, come, we save all of us, then I use your money to go and get a car, then tomorrow you use mine. What has been the struggle?
The biggest struggle has been building trust. When we started, we had a lot of pessimism in the market. Now the market has really warmed up to the idea. If you look at the posts, for example, on our wall yesterday when we posted the release of those vehicles, you have overwhelming comments of people saying they are coming to register into the SACCO. I would say the biggest struggle has been building trust. Why? Because you are promising something that has to do with tomorrow and not today. You're telling someone it is in 6 months. See, the current generation doesn't want to hear that kind of a language. They want to hear a language of today. And one of the conversations that therefore we've been pushing as the Maridady team and Maridady tribe is a conversation of trust in the process. And we will advance that conversation when you're in Kenya, Bitok. We have members of our SACCO who are in the US today as we speak. And they did not come to Maridady Motors to fill a form. Right now we are working on our technological platforms. Very soon, people will be able to register into our SACCO using our website. You just go there, you key in your details, and you will be able to be vetted by our members briefly by being asked a few questions, and then you can be admitted. You will be educated on what our SACCO is all about, if you agree to our terms, conditions, and our policies and our values, because SACCOs are formed on the principle of common bond. And right now our common bond is someone who wants to buy a vehicle or somebody who wants to invest in the auto industry is the person who can be able to join our SACCO. So that is the procedure. But if someone goes to our website and click on the tab written SACCO, they will be able to see all that information.
All right, that's amazing. Now, as we had to tell it, we have been accused of being a microwave generation. Where I come from, they say surugu garuria. Meaning when you're boiling, maybe accused of being a generation that wants things. We don't want the process. We don't want the process of accumulating wealth. That's why even talking about corruption. The country, people looting left, right, and center. We've been accused of a generation that wants instant things. We want instant pleasures. We want instant whatever. Instant wealth. We want instant. We want every time. There's not even talking about people were shooting each other here in Kilimani.
Yeah.
Umesikia watu wanapigana marisasi. Sijui aliniibia hii. Huyu sijui alipataka na chonga kufuli ya gold. You know the things that are happening. We've been accused of being a generation that wants to say things on the instant.
Yeah.
What's your feeling? Do you think the young people still touch the process of building wealth? You know? Like the other day when you're doing the vehicle handover to that old couple. It's a process that I've built. They're saying, you know, even the mama also happy. Beba.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a story of inspiration, of a process that you can back up. If I stopped people today driving, if I could stop up at Prestige at the junction and look for every big vehicle that crosses and stop them and ask them, how did you get this vehicle? Almost 90% or 99% of those people will not have an explanation.
True.
People, when you ask them about their processes, how did you get here? They cannot tell you because it has been shortcuts, and that is why we are depressed these days. Ile comparison, unaangalia social media on Instagram, people wako mwingine ako Mombasa, mwingine ako Greece, they're having an holiday and you're like, wani mimi Mungu nilikukosea nini? Mimi nilizaliwa ama nilianguka kwa miti ya magodofia? You ask yourself a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what is that these people are doing that I'm not doing? There's a lot of peer pressure around. And we tend to be those where we want to say things happening. When ladies even are falling to this sponsor narrative where they feel like for them to keep up the lifestyle of impressing and instant things, getting instant, and getting instant holidays, they have to maybe do that older men, I mean, what's your feeling on that accusation that we've turned into a microwave generation? We don't want the process. We just want things. We want to say things.
I think
what are your thoughts on
there is truth in that merit, and I think it has been molded even worse, by the political class, whereby you have instant millionaires. You have people who all of a sudden, like you say, cannot be able to tell you the story of how they found themselves on top of the tree. Did they jump? Did they climb? Did they use a helicopter? Did they use a rocket? And I think that has inspired the generation behind, or even our generation, the wrong way. So everybody is trying to use a shortcut. And the result is the frustration that we see. People have a very high affinity of wanting to impress each other. You see, Bitok, you can do something because you want to do it well. But the moment you begin to feel the pressure that, you want to drive a car you cannot afford because you want to impress your people, now there is a problem there. And I think technology has made it worse. See, look at how much exposure people have to technology today. You want to make your coffee, instant coffee maker is available. You want to warm your food. Think about the process of taking a shower those days when electricity was not there, for example. And we cannot go back there. The process of warming the water alone, there was some work to it. You put water in a karai, unaweka pale nje. Unagojea, isn't it? Ama unawasha jiko if you must use hot water. There was some struggles that the natural lifestyle of the days gone that was teaching people to wait. Today everything you want is available. It's instant messaging. How will we convince our children, for example, that you could write a letter to a girlfriend and wait for it for 3 weeks? They will laugh. They will think we are crazy. You see the point? How will we convince them that githeri, for example, githeri is a staple food in my community. Githeri used to take almost the whole day to cook. And you are given that responsibility as a young boy, and you are told by the mother, kazi yako ni kuongezea kuni.
Na maji isiungue.
Nikikuta hii kitu imeungua.
Hata alikuwa anasemanga, hata sio nisikuta, alikuwa anasemanga wacha niende nipate hiyo githeri
imeungua. You see, that gave us some lessons that even for there to be food in the evening, you have to work for it. You have to make sure that githeri comes out well. But today I see that githeri can be made in less than 1 hour, 45 minutes, using some very computerized pressure cookers.
Even buying them even from Carrefour.
Buying from Carrefour. So all these things, the availability of this technology, the conveniences of life. You get into the bathroom and the instant heater is, you even set the temperature that you want, in some of these facilities. So the thing is that this person gets it so easy and gets a psychological disposition that suggests to him that you should get everything instantly. But I like to say that many other things that matter in life will not be instant. You will not build a good career instantly. You will not build a good name instantly. You will not build a good marriage, a good relationship with your spouse or family instantly. It is a slow process. It is not life on the speed train. It is life in the jungle, meandering. Sometimes you meet with challenges, hills, mountains, swamps, all those things, and you have to go through them for you to emerge on the other side as a strong person. So this availability of technology has, yes, produced a micro generation. And that's why I'm saying, Bitok, we are in the middle generation right now. And we have seen both lives. As we bring up the younger generation, we have to inculcate these values into them and let them see that sometimes there will be value in waiting. Sometimes there will be value in putting more effort. Sometimes there will be value in giving yourself time to learn. Yeah. Because if you look at the things that people are struggling with today and that are giving people depression, they are very easy things if someone is willing to follow a process. Yeah. Things like, being obese, weight, and all these things. The solution is simple. You have to change how you're eating daily, and you have to change how you are making yourself active daily. That is going to take a process. But the person you will be communicating to does not understand process, understands instant. So he's asking, isn't there a tablet I can swallow and I lose all this weight? And that tablet becomes the tablet of death. So reteaching ourselves that trusting the process, driving the process is very, very important in life. It's a conversation that you and I we have to continue having.
You must have it.
We must continue.
Where's the turnaround for a generation? Because it looks like already we're in a crisis. Where's the turnaround? How do we fix this? Not even for our children, even us ourselves. We struggle with all of these things. Where's the turnaround for us? Where do we start the process of reversing this?
This conversation is the beginning of that turnaround. We have to imagine, we have to keep having this conversation, and we have to model it. Nobody is perfect. We are not perfect. I believe you and I are not this show because we are the smartest people.
No, definitely.
Or because we are perfect. We both have our struggles, right? But we have to keep on having these conversations and encouraging each other and saying, you know what? If we continue on this path, we're not going anywhere. Because Trio Media, today you can run it because you have the energy, you have the agility, you can wake up early. Maridady Motors, today I can run it. I have the agility to wake up early. You will find me in the office at 6. But 40 years down the line, you and I, tutakuwa tuna doze saa 4. Unajua hivyo?
Kuamka kwanza hata kuinua kichwa peke yake. Hata kufungua macho.
So we have
to motivation. Chocha.
So we have to prepare the people that we are going to hand over the batons to for them to continue from where we live. Yeah.
This is a conversation you definitely need to still have it. I'm also seeing some comments. Non-Thrift Mira says amazing conversation, clever minds. Thank you. Sairaj says good morning. Good morning to you. Ila says hi Gerald, a great financial advice. Thank you so much, Ila. Good morning. Bernard Kathaka says great stuff, profound advice. We Africans need to understand succession planning. Clinton Ambrose says great show. Asante sana. Joel Rama anasema waambiwa watu waandike will ndio utajua kweli wa Afrika wapende. As we wind up, what are some of the things that really worry you about the destiny and the future of this country? We are doing business, right? We are a place where we are in a cycle of negative politics every day. The politicking around, all the crazy things that just when you think we're going to sit down as a country and stabilize the economy so that we can all thrive, we still find other things that keep coming up. I mean, I'm sure that you're worried, not only as a businessman, but as a parent who has children who need to go to school, who have children who have to, fees has to be paid. You're also worried as a patriot of a nation, or as a citizen, that you'd want to see a better country. Probably you've been out there, you've seen that, a nation can be better. We can have a better country if we choose to. There are things that keep us awake at night. A lot of things keep me awake at night, personally. You wake up every day, and when you think now you have an opportunity to start again and build something, it gets worse because of the environment around you. The policies are crazy. The environment, the way government runs and everything else is crazy. Just when you look at everything, even as we speak at this point, is that everything is messed up. We're having conversations that doesn't really matter. The conversations that we're having as a country are conversations that are not constructive. What is it that keeps you awake at night about this country?
Bitok, what keeps me awake is looking behind at the coming generation and asking myself, what kind of a world are we creating for them? See, the average person, the average family has 2 kids, 3 kids. I think this generation is embracing the concept of 3 kids. And so it means that the population continues to increase every day, right? But the question is, this generation that is growing up, the kids who are in class 4 today, for example, they will be 20, 21 years old in the next 1 decade. they will be graduating from the university and they will be wanting to get into the economy to work. The question is, are we creating those places of work today? Yeah? Or are we eating the few companies that are existing? When I look back at my older brothers, many of them were working for parastatals, for example. My eldest brother was working for Kenya National Assurance. No longer is no longer there. My second older brother was working for Kenya Railways. They were working for parastatals. Where are these parastatals today? The sugar companies. Yeah. Are we expanding the job opportunities, the economic opportunities in this country to absorb all the coming generations? Every year we graduate over 900,000 Form 4 leavers. They all somehow need to be somewhere in the economy working in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah. I think that keeps me awake to see to it that as a country, and this is not to put blame on anybody, because the building on the nation of the nation is going to be led by the government, but everybody has to play a part to it. I think the disappointment is to see us eating what is already existing. You're already talking of the businesses that are collapsing. Do we have an equal number of businesses that are coming up? Because if you already have the people that are there losing jobs, what are we going to do about the fresh generation that is getting into the economy to look for the same jobs? And I think the challenge for the leadership of this nation at all levels is for us to embrace the building of a country that works for everybody. Because I like to say, we talk, that you can bring up your kids to the best of your ability, and you can do things for them that you can do as their father. You can be the best daddy. But do you know one thing, we talk, that when your daughter wants to get married and your son wants to get married, you can't help them. They have to go out there and help themselves. Now, if every other boy and every other girl out there is going to be hopeless, it will not matter how well you did as a father. Yeah. So the thing is that we are interdependent, and we have to start getting concerned about the bigger society and not just our nuclear families. And I think the challenge to give to the leadership of this country is that we need to reduce our selfishness and think nationally. You want to go to the kitchen, not so that you can cook for everybody, but so that you can go and get a bigger share from the food that is cooking. I think we need to encourage that spirit of service, that spirit of servant leadership, and that concern that the actions that you're taking as a leader, whether you are a religious leader, a political leader, a business leader, you have to take decisions that are making the society better for everybody.
A better place.
Yeah.
All right. What are your final remarks as a class?
My final remarks is that all of us, every single day, have an opportunity to make something better. Even though that thing you can make better is not the biggest thing, and even though it may not appear on the news, do not refuse to do it. If today you can only be able to change the life of one person, make sure you go for it. Yeah.
All right. There's someone called Joel Arama. Hata alikuwa anataka kanta. Amesema he wants to know, anataka kukulink. He wants to have a side chat with you.
He's welcome.
Link you up. Alikuwa anataka kanta, lakini amesema he likes what you're talking about and he wants to put his small money into it. I know it's very long money, by the way. You say small, but I know. Arama. His money is very long.
Amekaribishwa Maridady Motors.
That is Arama, chairman to the Tackle Diaspora edition. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Joel Arama, for joining us. Been watching all the way since we started, and he's been on. He's been watching us. So thank you so much, Joel Arama. I'll link you up to Sahirik so that you can have a side chat. I really want to appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I hope you've gotten value from this, and I hope you're gonna think differently as we move forward, so that we can make this place a better place. Joel Arama says, Gerald Bitok, I need to have a side conversation with a gentleman. I'm always encouraged and inspired by such minds. I can put my little money into it. Thank you so much, Kiragu. KJ says he is tuned in. I really appreciate it. Asante sana. The Tacklers, I love you guys. I really do. The fact that we just did our second show today, and you guys have showed us a really amazing love on the timeline. We really appreciate, and hope you're gonna build this thing to become a story, a bigger story, and a better story, a bigger version of us. And I hope this year as well, you've made plans to be bigger. If you've been running a business, please try and make it bigger this time. If it has been going back to school, please go back to school. If it has been looking for a job, please try and keep looking for a job. I mean, whatever you've been planning to do this year, please go big. They say, go big or go home. It's either you go big or you go home. There's no other option. So I want to encourage you guys, just keep going. If you're struggling in business today, you are the story from Maridady. Maridady Moto CEO Eric Mwangi amekuambia mali amepitia zile mashida, amepitia pia ameweza kuweza kuzi overcome. So you can still overcome. The story, the fact, the best thing about story, and I love stories, is it tells you that what the other person can do, you can also do. That's the best thing about success stories. So I hope you guys we're gonna tell more success stories from these conversations we've had today. You're gonna think better and you're going to work better. I want to remind you again that Maridady Motors is on Kiambu Road, directly opposite Total. That is Total Ridgeways. Na pia kuna Maridady Moto Spa iko pale Siata Mall, pale nyuma. Ukifika Siata Mall, ukivuka kwa parking unapatana na Maridady Moto Spa. Unaenda pale gari yako inaoshwa, umwache kupeleka magari car wash, mali nasuguliwa na gunia. Pelekeni Motorspa iende kufanyiwa kitu inaitwa taking care of your car. If you love your car, you gotta take care of it. Kuna mambo pia Maridady Motorcycle ambapo unaweza kuweka pesa 50%. Once you say 50%, you can get a car of your choice, alafu ile nyingine unalipia pole pole. Let's learn back the culture of saving, the culture of trusting the process, that you can start from somewhere, save ka shilingi 2, shilingi 3 until it becomes a car. Let's start that. Uko kwetu wanasemanga ukikutanisha lizards mingi na kwa nyoka. So we need to start from that. We love you guys and I hope you guys are going to have a great day. I want to wish you a very blessed Wednesday. See you again tomorrow. Kazi inaanza kesho. Bye bye and take care. The tackle loves you. This is the tackle and the tackle ends now. See you.